What's up, guys? Welcome back to the HCP podcast. As always, joined here by my co-host Joey. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification bell before we get into everything, and let's get into hopefully a packed week of fantasy football. Starting off as always with our studs and duds. Go ahead. I want to hear who you got as the stud this week.
As my stud, he was my dud last week, and he performed very well. Allen Robinson, he's playing Detroit this week. We saw Will Fuller absolutely bust that defense, even though he may have been on some type of insane drug. But hopefully, Allen Robinson can perform this week and put up upwards of 30 points. It looks like he's still getting the same amount of target share as he was with Foles, even with Trubisky. He got 13 targets in his last game, and he's looking good. I'm not too confident in this, but I really like his upside going into this game versus Detroit after seeing what Will Fuller did.
I'm sick of talking about him, but Jesus, I mean, he just keeps on getting good matchups. It won't be like that for long because he's going to start getting the worst part of his schedule. But 28th against the rush defense. He had a dud last week, though. Give me Dalvin Cook. And I don't know what else I'm supposed to do here. I mean, if I don't say Dalvin Cook, he puts up 45. I don't know what to do here. So I got to go Dalvin Cook with my stud. The matchup is way too good. And then on the dud side of things, though, I got DeAndre Swift. Going up against Chicago, Aaron Jones put up 10 against Chicago last night. And then the 9th-ranked defense against the run, based on when I wrote this. But I don't know if Swift is going to be able to come back from that concussion. I don't know how severe it is, so I'm going to play it safe. If Swift plays, he's my dud of the week. But if not, give me Amari Cooper. These guys are both going to be duds, but I feel like Swift is going to have a little bit more reliance because of how scarce running backs are. But Baltimore, 4th against wide receivers. Amari Cooper probably isn't going to have the best game because Marlon Humphrey is having a phenomenal year. So Amari Cooper, if Swift is out, then Amari Cooper gets my dud of the week. What about you?
Oh, yeah, I had the urge to pick Dalvin Cook as my stud this week also, but I tried to stray away and talk about somebody else for a week. As my dud, I'm going with Kyler Murray versus the Rams. We saw Russell Wilson do bad against him. They're a great defense. Kyler Murray did bad against the Patriots last week. Hopefully he can continue his good season, but this could be a back-to-back week of struggles for him. I mean, he's a young QB facing a great defense. He could get frustrated after a few stops and start chucking the ball up and maybe throw a couple picks. Hope not for Kyler Murray owners, but I see this as being another bad week for Kyler Murray.
All right, and let's roll right into our rankings, starting off with the top 15 wide receivers. Why don't you go ahead and kick it off?
All right, the wide receivers. It's getting pretty tough this week, but number one, the new number one spot for me, Tyreek Hill. I don't think I could give it to anyone else after that week and after the few weeks he's had before that. He's playing Denver, a bad defense. Just look for him to feast again. This guy's a guaranteed 25 every week for the rest of the season almost. I wouldn't say guaranteed. That's a pretty high number to guarantee, but he's just good. I'm done talking about him. All right, Devontae Adams, number 2, going against Philadelphia. I don't have to say much about him either. He had one of his worst weeks this week, and it was only, I think he had 18, 20 points. I mean, that's still a good week for Devontae Adams, but it's a bad week for him considering what he usually does. That's just how good he is. Number 3, I think Keenan Allen is finding his home right here at the 3 spot. He's not always the best, but he can be the best if he wants to. He plays New England. We saw Gilmore shut down DeAndre Hopkins last week. Hopefully Keenan Allen can continue with the volume he gets. Hopefully that kind of outweighs Gilmore getting on him with the targets and receptions he usually gets. For DK Metcalf versus Philadelphia, coming off of another monster game. He can be inconsistent at times, but he is best receiver on Seattle. Tyler Lockett has definitely fallen off. Metcalf versus Philadelphia this week. Wait, no. Did he play Philadelphia? He played Philadelphia last week. I'm sorry.
Who does he play about Metcalf?
Week? Yeah.
Metcalf, I don't know who they play. I didn't have him in my games yesterday.
I'm sorry for saying Philadelphia.
New York. New York. Metcalf plays against.
Yeah, the New York Giants. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I wrote down the wrong thing. Number 5, A.J. Brown coming off of a monster game, a 27-point performance. He plays Cleveland this week. They're not the best, but they're not the worst either against receivers. Expect him to have a good week in a big game, a must-win game for the Tennessee Titans. Number 6, Stephon Diggs. He's got a tough matchup versus San Francisco. We saw San Francisco kind of shut down Robert Woods, and they did shut down Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp coming off of a huge performance. He didn't do nothing versus San Francisco, but it stigs. He usually finds the end zone. Look for him to have a pretty good week this week. Number 7, he keeps climbing. Justin Jefferson going against Jacksonville. You could say this is a little high, but he has been super consistent the past 4 weeks. There's no way you can sit him. There's no way you can sit him anymore. He is the number 1 wide receiver. I mean, Adam Thielen was out, but I think even with Adam Thielen there, he's the number 1 receiver. He has the most upside on that team. Number 8, my start of the week, Allen Robinson playing Detroit. I wasn't confident enough to put him any higher, but he has insane upside versus Detroit. Number 9, Terry McLaurin versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh secondary has been improving since the beginning of the season. They did give up a lot of points in the beginning, but they're starting to get a little bit better. Still Terry McLaurin, though. He gets a crazy amount of targets every game. Expect him to do well. Number 10, he's pretty low this week. DeAndre Hopkins, he's playing the Rams. He got shut down last week by Gilmore, and he plays someone better than Gilmore this week in Jalen Ramsey. So don't expect too much better, but definitely don't sit him. It's DeAndre Hopkins. You can't sit him. 11, Adam Thielen, if he plays. I don't know the whole COVID situation. I don't know how long they have to be out, a specific amount of days. But if he plays, I got him at 11, playing against Jacksonville, just like Justin Jefferson. He's expected to have a good week. Jacksonville has a terrible secondary. Number 12, let's go Robert Woods. He had that big game a couple weeks back. He didn't do too bad against San Francisco either. He plays Arizona. Not the best secondary either. I expect him to get those targets. That offense runs around him right now. I expect him to keep doing well. Number 13, it's sad to see him this low. I never think he would be this low. But Michael Thomas, he's playing Atlanta this week. Since Taysom Hill has got there, oh my! I know anyone that owns anyone on New Orleans, you're pissed at Taysom Hill. I mean, the guy is a freaking pest. I've been saying that since the beginning of the year. He takes touchdowns. He started by taking touchdowns from Drew Brees. Now he's taking them from Kamara. He's taking them from Michael Thomas as the starter, and he's just annoying, honestly, for fantasy owners.
Unless you
Number
own
14,
Taysom Hill, you hate Taysom Hill pretty much.
yeah, Kamara owners, I'm sorry this had to happen to you guys. 14, Calvin Ridley against New Orleans. He got into the end zone last week. That inflated his numbers. I didn't think he did too well just through the air in general. But if Julio plays, I'm not sure if he's playing. He's questionable this week. Calvin Ridley did pretty good without him, though. He's playing New Orleans. And at 15, Tyler Lockett against the Giants, one of the most inconsistent wide receivers this year, but I don't know if you can sit him just yet. He had a pretty bad game versus Philadelphia, but you got to play him and hope for that upside game.
All right, and then getting into the running backs. Number 1, Dalvin Cook. Number 2, Derrick Henry. Number 3, James Robinson. We saw Zeke did good against Minnesota, and then he decided to fall off the face of the earth. So if Zeke can do good, that little bum, let's give it to James Robinson. He's looked phenomenal this year. He had a big week last week. I believe he had like 26. So, yeah, I expect him to light this Minnesota defense on fire. At number 4, give me Nick Chubb. I don't know how many times I got to say it, but Nick Chubb looks phenomenal, and Cleveland is using him incredibly well, better than I thought before he went on injury. So Chubb against Tennessee, I believe they're 24th against the run, so it's a great matchup for Chubb. At 5, give me Josh Jacobs against the Jets. He had a bit of a dud last week, but it's the Jets. The Jets suck so bad, and if Jacobs gets anywhere near his usual volume, especially and even if Devontae Booker takes a little bit of away, I know Jacobs is dealing with a little bit of an injury, but from what I've read from the injury reports, it's more of a low to moderate risk of him sitting. So I'm expecting him to play this week against the Jets, but. I mean, hey, it could limit his production, and then that'd probably take him off the top 10 if he's limited. But I'm going to keep him at 5, like he would play regularly. At 6, he is such a good running back for fantasy, especially if you're in a PPR format. I can't drop him any lower just yet, just because I just can't do it. It feels wrong. So Kamara at 6. He'll probably have another bad week here, a lot worse than probably the rest of the guys I'm about to name here. That'll probably end up what happened. But, it's Kamara. Sometimes you think he plays bad defense, and he puts up like 20. So I can't really drop him anywhere near 6 just because of the ceiling that he has. But Taysom Hill has definitely hurt that tremendously. At 7, Sanders for Philadelphia. If they decide to give him the ball, he will have a great week this week. Green Bay is a phenomenal matchup for him. David Montgomery managed to put up 25 against them. So if they can workhorse Sanders like they've been doing or that they've successfully done in the past, he should have a good day here. I got him ranked at 7th. 8, give me Austin Eckler. He looked great last week. He was used in the passing game. I think he had like a 9 or 8 receptions, usual Austin Eckler type numbers. He goes up against New England. But once again, his ceiling, I shouldn't really say his ceiling, but his floor is too high with his reception totals. And Herbert is just having a phenomenal season. Doesn't seem like any defense can stop them, but this New England defense is pretty scary. At 9, give me Aaron Jones against Philadelphia. Carson didn't have that bad of a week against them. He came back a little bit strong, probably got people enough points to win their week. And Aaron Jones, he needs to start getting used in the passing game a little bit more. I haven't liked the amount of receptions he's been getting, but when he does get receptions, he does seem to be productive with it. He looked good on the ground Sunday, though. I did think that he looked really good on the ground, but he isn't getting enough carries for me to bump him up any higher. And Philadelphia has looked like a sustainable run defense, one of the best, I believe, ranked when it comes to fantasy. So give me Jones at 9. 10, give me Antonio Gibson. 36-pointer against Dallas. We all know how good he's going to be. But once again, 10 and 11 can be flip-flop because I got Montgomery against Detroit. Now, Monty is nowhere near Gibson's talent. Gibson is easily a running back 1. That's why I'm putting him in the top 10 because we've seen running backs do good against Pittsburgh. But Montgomery could easily be a top 5 running back this week because put up 25 last week against Green Bay. If they use it now, that was mostly due to, one, he had that receiving touchdown and he had a big run at the beginning, but still a great day for Montgomery, and he could do better than Gibson, Jones, or hell, even Eckler with how good, or not really how good, but how bad this Detroit defense is. So I got Monty sitting at 11 and above him Gibson. 12, give me Naheem Hines. It's pretty much a blind dart throw at this point when trying to choose a running back out of this Colts backfield, but it seems like Taylor is going to be back, but if for some reason something comes up, Hines is easily a top 10 running back, but it does seem like Taylor's going to come back. But I'm going to trust Hines this week over Taylor. Taylor gets a little bit more carries here, but I like Hines more. I feel like whenever I trust Taylor, Hines ends up putting up like 30. So I'm going to go Hines here at 12 against Houston. I believe they're still ranked, I think, about like 29th or 31st, something around that. It's very bad. 13, give me Chris Carson against New York. Carlos Hyde is being used a little bit too much for me to bump Carson up a little bit, but New York is in a good run defense, so he's probably going to stay in this bottom 5 end of the list, but it doesn't mean he's going to have a bad week. I feel like he'll still have a good week. I just need a little bit more production from Pete Carroll for me to bump him up a little bit. And then at 14, give me Wayne Gallman, probably about the only good NFC East running back besides Gibson. But the biggest surprise from New York, no doubt. Gallman has been playing phenomenally in place of Saquon. And Seattle, I mean, they held off Sanders, but I mean, it's really because they only gave Sanders like 6 carries or some shit. But yeah, I feel like Gallman's going to have a good week here. Probably better than my guy at 15, and that's Zeke Elliott. The volume that he usually gets, I can't put him over some other guys, but we've pretty much gone through all the reliable guys, all the good matchups. So for the hell of it, I'll probably put him at 15, even though he probably won't even finish in the top 20 with how good this Baltimore defense has been. Getting to your tight ends.
All right, my tight ends. Number 1, Kelsey's playing Denver. Number 2, Darren Waller. Those are the top 2 basically every week. Darren Waller plays the Jets. Very good matchup. Expect him to pop off this week. Number 3, I'm giving it to Evan Ingram, my guy. He did really good last week, and he's been very consistent. I've been talking him up for a long time now, and I hope you guys listened and picked him up in your leagues because now it's starting to pay off. Number 4, TJ Hawkinson. He had a good game on Thanksgiving. If he would have got a touchdown, that would have been a great performance. He plays Chicago, who is the second worst at stopping tight ends. I don't know why, but it looks like a good matchup for Hawkinson. I guess that's the one weak spot in Chicago's defense. Number 5, let's go Hunter Henry. He's coming off of a 10-target game. Again, he plays Buffalo this week. He's been playing pretty consistent the past couple of weeks. It looks like Herbert is looking to him as the number 2 option on that team.
He plays New England.
Number 6. Oh, okay, yeah, he plays New England. My fault there. Number 6, Dallas Goedert. He's playing against Green Bay this week. He's back-to-back 18-plus performances. You can't deny that, but it's always inconsistent with those Philly tight ends. But Dallas Goedert has been pretty good lately. In a monster game last night, a 20-point performance. Number 7, let's go with Robert Tonyan. He had back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. He had a touchdown last week. This week, he does play Philadelphia. who are the, I think, 15th versus tight ends. And number 8, Eric Ebron versus Washington, assuming Ebron doesn't just do terrible tonight, if he plays tonight. Assuming Ebron has a decent game like he usually does. He's been pretty consistent. He plays Washington. These tight ends at the bottom of the list, they're just, it's a toss-up. There's not many tight ends this year that you can rely on. Number 9, this is weird, but Gesicki, he's playing Cincinnati. He had 11 points last game after a terrible midseason. I mean, that's decent for a tight end, 11 points. I'll take that. There are just not many people that I can put above him right now. And number 10, I got Jonnu Smith. Where was he last week? Was he on the field? Did he not get targeted?
I don't know.
What was
He didn't
going
get
on? I
targeted
don't
at
even
all.
know.
Didn't get
Yeah, if you
targeted at all.
started Jonnu last week, you were probably punching holes in the wall, because that'd make me mad. He would be higher if he had the weeks that he usually does. I mean, he usually at least gets 5 targets or something like that. This guy was invisible on the field this week for some reason. But that rounds out the tight ends. That's your top 10.
In my mind, I have Jonnu a little bit higher than that because Cleveland is so bad against tight ends. But yeah, he really just hasn't been
He
getting
just
that
didn't have a
volume.
good week last week, so I
Yeah,
couldn't do it. Yeah.
he hasn't been getting that volume. But over in the QB department, number 1, Mahomes. Number 2, Russell Wilson against New York. I mean, all of these top tier quarterbacks really all have bad matchups when it comes to statistically. But Russell Wilson had a bit of a dud last week, but I feel like he'll probably have a good performance here against New York. Probably Chris Carson probably use a little bit more in the receiving game, probably get used into that game a little bit more. And that's where I feel like Russell Wilson kind of missed from Carson's absence. At 3, give me Deshaun Watson. Monster week last week, but he plays Indiana. But, I mean, there's so many buts here. There's so many exceptions, and there's so many just a tough matchup here for Deshaun Watson. But Indiana, I feel like, won't be able to hold him off. He's just such a good playmaker, especially the rushing upside that he has. And I feel like Brandon Cooks is enough to work with. And if Randall Cobb is back, then he should be good when it comes to weapons to at least do something. And then 4, give me Kyler Murray against the Rams. I know you had him as your dud, but once again, rushing upside is too high, and we've seen the games that Kyler Murray was averaging towards the beginning of the year before he went through this little rough spell. So yeah, I can't put Murray any lower than this. At 5, give me Justin Herbert. Same thing right here. A tough matchup, but the year that Justin Herbert has had, it's not really amazing, but it's just so consistent. It's like 20 points per game. I mean, like last week was the first time I've seen him go under 20 in like 2 months. It's crazy. You need that out of a quarterback. And yeah, some guys are really being saved by Justin Herbert this season. Josh Allen against San Francisco at 6. It's same thing. Josh Allen has been phenomenal this year. Defensive matchup isn't great, but his upside is too good, especially with the weapons that he got, like you were talking about earlier with Stephon Diggs. And then at 7, considering that he's not sick or the Madden curse just doesn't kill him, give me Lamar Jackson against Dallas. I mean, I feel like Lamar could have a big week here. Probably get somewhat of a passing game going, but his weapons suck. I mean, Lamar hasn't looked great this season, but his weapons are just horrible. And now that Bryant is starting to get used in the game a little bit more, maybe he brings that reliability in the red zone. But Marquise Brown who are you going to rely on? Willie Snead? The only guy he can rely on is Mark Andrews and his running backs and pretty much his own legs. But yeah, I like Jackson this week. Give me him against Dallas at 7. At 8, Aaron Rodgers against Philadelphia. He's cooking defenses left and right. And once again, not a great matchup, but Aaron Rodgers is unstoppable this season, it seems like. So give me him at 8. At 9, give me Tannehill. There's I said earlier with Henry when I was talking about him, there's a lot of guys who could have big weeks here for Tennessee. A.J. Brown, the obvious one, Corey Davis, and hell, Jonnu Smith could still have a good week because Cleveland cannot stop a tight end to save their life. So overall, that bumps up Tannehill's stock this week. I believe Cleveland is like 22nd against QBs, so give me Tannehill at 9. And at 10, Taysom Hill put up 24 against Atlanta last time around. He just really sucks when it comes to all of his other weapons. Their stock has plummeted, but he has insane rushing upside, and he's been doing pretty well when it comes to QB. So Taysom Hill rounding up the bottom of my top 10. And then let's jump right into waiver wires. I want to hear who you got. Who should people be picking up if they need a running back this week?
I got a couple guys to talk about. First one, The obvious one, I think, is Latavius Murray. If you're a Kamara owner, especially, I mean, I'd look into picking him up in case we just somehow see Kamara just plummet. And Latavius got 19 carries, and he had 128 yards on the ground last week with 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is getting scary for Kamara owners. I'd handcuff him going into the playoffs in case he has another one of these kind of weeks, and Kamara just keeps doing what he's doing. And I also wanted to talk about another guy that you can handcuff if you're a Josh Jacobs owner, Devontae Booker. Uh, Depending on the severity of this ankle injury for Jacobs, you might need to get Devontae Booker if Jacobs is your running back one. He could be out for a week, 2, 3. We don't know. Hopefully his injury isn't bad. I would be safe though and just grab Devontae Booker off the waivers because we've seen Devontae Booker have good games even when Jacobs was in. So if we see Booker get that full workload with the passing work, I mean, I think he would be a pretty consistent running back, maybe 2, without Jacobs in there. And I think he's worth a pickup if you're a Josh Jacobs owner and you're scared about that injury.
All right, and then my running back, I got J.K. Dobbins. He looks like he might be able to play this week with how much this game has been postponed, but against Dallas, we suck so bad. He has been getting owned a lot, but he's going to start getting added sooner or later, especially with this game coming back up. But he's 46.3% owned based off of the NFL fantasy app. And, guys have dropped him because he caught COVID and they can't really use him. And they don't see him as that guy they need a stash on their bench. So go pick up J.K. Dobbins and just play him this week if you really do need a running back. He's probably a flex option at best when it comes to most leagues. But hell, I mean, he could have a running back 2, running back 1 type of performance, though. And then in the wide receiver column, I got Nelson Aguilar against the Jets this week with the Raiders. Like you said, Josh Jacobs, I expect him to play, but if he doesn't play, they're going to be a little bit more lenient on Devontae Booker and maybe even more of the passing game. And Aguilar has looked fantastic ever since he went over there in Las Vegas. He's been catching the ball, which is something that he didn't do last year. So he's 33.2% owned. Derek Carr's looking his way a lot, and this Jets team sucks. So I expect if you really do need a wide receiver this week, a flex option, go to Nelson Aguilar. I feel like he's going to be a great pickup this week. What about you?
I also have 2 guys to talk about for receiver. I couldn't leave one of them out. Deebo Samuel, he killed the Rams. Not many people do that. He put up like 25 against the Rams stacked secondary. He's getting that jet pass sweep, that rushing game, everything that we usually see Deebo Samuel do. He is back, and he should be a pretty good play in these next few weeks. I mean, his schedule is not bad. And the second guy I wanted to talk about is Jarvis Landry. He looks like the clear wide receiver 1 after that game. He had 28 points, a touchdown, and 143 yards. If we can see Jarvis Landry get back to his old self, no Odell there to take away anything from him. If we can see the Browns put effort to get the ball to Jarvis Landry, he could be a good waiver wire pickup this week.
All right, and then the streamers for this week when it comes to defense, I got the Chiefs going up against Denver. They put up, 24 against Denver. That's a great streamer this week. They are a little bit higher owned than other defensive streamers, but I mean, even then, it's not that high of a percentage. I feel like you can get your hands on the Chiefs defenses. No one is stashing them. So yeah, go ahead and pick up the Chiefs against Denver this week. What about you?
All right, even after the Raiders struggled to stop the Atlanta Falcons overall last week, their defense isn't the best, but it wouldn't be a bad play to use them against the Jets this week, who are the Jets, and they're going to throw a couple picks. They're going to get sacked. I mean, just expect a pretty average game out of the Raiders this week.
All right, and then that rounds off everything for fantasy. Hopefully this COVID. I mean, we had a rough week of COVID this past week, so hopefully that doesn't really hurt a lot of people's stocks, especially with Lamar. We don't know what that's going to be like. Maybe RG3 could be a good pickup or a stream, especially this week against Pittsburgh if you really do need a quarterback for the game. Well, I mean that's already passed now. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Hope we do help you out here. Games don't start until Sunday, so you got a little bit longer to make sure you pick up everything. And waiver wires, I believe waivers process on Friday because of how late the game is being played. So yeah, make sure you have all your waivers and set by the end of tonight. And yeah, see you guys next week. Peace.